Well, hey there team, and welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to some more Hardspace Shipbreaker on our main account as we grind away. Today we're going to look at getting that 7.5 to 8 mil that we're getting so used to now. It's cool. It's cool that our band for error is still pretty narrow. You know, I can still mess up a bit. I mean, let's see what happens if I blow up a reactor or something. That'll probably throw a bit of a spanner in the works, but until then, well, let's check our equipment. I think we're doing okay. Let's repair that. Okay, cool. So, start shift. Ooh, Daddy doesn't have much of a choice this time. Alright, let's take the Orca. I mean, I could have taken an easier work order industrial one, but that's alright. We'll stick with the very hards. You know, it's all a bit of a learning experience. Let's see. Utility keys negative. Let's grab a one of those bigger boys. So previously on Scarlet has a big old fat rant. I was talking about, you know, conceptualizing, reviewing, and how that would work into sort of my methodology and, you know, how it would suit you guys. Had some really interesting feedback. It was a bit sharp. It was a bit pointy, which, you know, I'm all about. That's fine. It's actually, you know what? It stands testament early in the piece to the fact that, you guys can sort of push back on me a bit, but not be dickheads. Do you know what I mean? Not that I'm accusing you of it, but, you know, like, no one was really outright toxic or anything like that. But there was a bit of a consensus that you weren't necessarily all on the same page as me for my concept. So I appreciate that. I appreciate people, you know, verbalizing this. Why are you pressurizing it? I thought I was opening the door. But without being, you know, douchebags or anything. So that was really good. Oh, that's cool. The door opened. So here's my thought real quick. What I was talking about was a percentile-based system, which is, it's funny, it doesn't really mean that, but it is ultimately a ranking, you know, and of course that is making an objective list from my subjective decision on a game or games. Oh, that's right, that makes me let go. But of course it does, you know, and that's the point. That's actually the core point of a review score, is to be able to give you some sort of work product that has a consistency. And I'll just say really quickly, that's kind of actually why, maybe you don't realize it, but that's what's really wrong with your IGNs and your GameSpots, because they're a review house, right? They give you this standardized scored review, which, if I was doing the exact same thing, you'd be able to go, okay, Scarlet gave this a 7, Scarlet gave this a 6. I get an idea of what that's about. Now, the problem with having 17 different reviewers on staff that constantly rotate through is the score now actually literally means nothing, because you've got different reviewers with different opinions, but all reviewing for the same platform, as it were. We're going to still split this thing open just like normal. You know what I mean? Like, an IGN 6 and an IGN 7 mean nothing compared to each other because they were two different reviewers. So there's a problem with that. Like, it's interesting to me, they got so corporate and large that they needed to have multiple reviewers. But perhaps you follow how that just undermines the entire process altogether of having a review score system when there's no consistency between the scores. And you could argue that they have like a framework that they work to, and I'm like, okay, cool, but that argument doesn't hold water when you suddenly realize that there is a generalist scoring framework between all reviews between 1 and 10, ergo OpenCritic and Metacritic, right? And yet there's massive inconsistency. Why aren't they consistent? You know what I mean? It's like, if we can't get the Metacritic scores right, then why the hell would we believe that an internal review house would get it right? Now, I'm not trying to bash on them or anything like that, but I think that's just sort of a real fundamental problem with review houses, as I call them, that maybe you were sort of conscious of on a level, but hadn't really thought of out loud as well. But just something to chew over. Anyway, so what I was actually trying to suggest was actually a little bit lofty of me. There's no denying that the scoring system does actually need reform and overhaul, but I'm the guy that makes 6 videos a day, has fun, talks some shit in some of them, shows you some new stuff. I'm not the guy to reform the whole system, right? I don't really have interest in that. So why am I, sort of proposing essentially reform? I shouldn't be. So I was going about it the wrong way, and some people, sort of rightly so, are just suggesting I'm swapping one numbered system for another, and that's 100% true. It's a trap. It's bait. I referenced the idea of having people in the comments section on, say, an IGN video, and they just tear each other to bits going, it should be this, it should be that. And I think it's pretty small brain behavior, but at the end of the day, if I switch to a list, even if it's purely my subjective opinion, but I'm putting an objective ranking on it, saying I liked this game better than that, and even if it comes from the purest of intentions, which is to service you, the viewer, it's still a trap. It's still laying a trap for everyone involved by giving a score, giving something sort of almost like solid, something malleable in a way for the people to grab onto and fight over. Anyway, so it was interesting. You guys have helped see me a perspective. I humble myself before you yet again, dear team, that this was something. Well, there you go. That can go to the furnace this one time. That there was something that I didn't really consider there. So then we come back to what ultimately is probably going to be the best answer. Will be less is more, right? I will review a game because I want to play it. Why do I want to play it? Because I bloody want to play it. There you go. That's as complicated as it has to be. And I won't give it a score. I'll just say if I had fun. And, what I would be curious from you guys is write me out some things that you specifically would want to hear from a reviewer, right? It's not going to necessarily be sort of the more malleable thing like a score. And I'm not going to do like ACG sort of thing where he does that really traditional. He essentially gives it a score without it being technically a score, if you follow what I mean. He's a great reviewer, but I don't want to do it that way. It would just be me sitting here bloody having a yarn, telling you what I reckon, and telling you if I liked it or not. And here's the core, I honestly was leaning towards giving some sort of scoring system truly as a service to the consumer. That's actually where it all comes from. I love consumer friendly. That is the whole point. And then I sort of come to realize that on a level, there is sort of an implied condescension to doing exactly that, right? Don't get me wrong, I'm sure that's why review scores are so popular in the first place. It's because people don't have time to figure it out for themselves. You're a busy person, you work in a 100-hour week. I get it, I agree. That's why I've turned to them in the past. But I think truly, the better path is, hey guys, here's a game, this is what I think, here's the pros, cons and all that, here's the information, and here's my honest, down-to-earth opinion. And you, the consumer, listen to that, and then you make your own bloody decision because you're an adult and you've got your own sort of cognitive capacity. And I think that's probably the most respectful. Where is the other one? Most respectful path forward. So yeah, I had a bit of a think about it, and I guess, like I said, my only real point is I would hope people recognize that the list thing came from a place of love in the first place, there's no ego tied up or anything like that. It was more like I want to give you guys, I've got the platform, I've got the game, I'm playing it, I have an opinion, and it's to sort of help you guys out. That's the whole point. So yeah, anyway, I don't want to waffle on it too much, but I have been humbled. You're right, I was looking at the wrong thing. I was looking at what's wrong with the current rating list system, and I still stand by the fact I'm right. It's wrong. It needs reform. But the thing is, no one asks for reform. You guys don't need reform. What you need is a dude that you like waffling about bloody anything he wants. And you just need him to waffle about the game that he enjoyed. And then you can make your own decision because you're a bloody adult. Anyway, so that's probably how it's going to end up going. I will very slowly review games because I only have so much spare time, but it gives me a project to work on in the spare time. And then I'll pop out a bit of ramble about what I thought of the game and what you might think of the game. And then go on, sort of thing. Now, what is the easiest way to...
Tether supplies running low.
Don't give me that shit, Mole. Oh, you bum. You big bum head.
Cutter, there's 5 minutes remaining in this shift. Get in while the getting's good. We wrap.
This has been a bit of a... What the fuck? Oh, don't do it to me. Alright, so we need to get better at these. Alright, that's isolated, that's good.
Warning, your oxygen reserves are dropping below statistically profitable levels.
That's no good. Alright, that should work. Oh, for crying out loud, how do I get back in here?
Object accepted for processing. Credits deposited.
Through here, right? What a bloody nightmare. Oh.
Level stabilizing.
Okay. It's interesting. This is definitely the harder of the two, I would say. Or the more fiddly. For one shifting it at least, actually. I'd be open to hear what people would like to see reviewed, but at the end of the day, it is one of those things, it's more that the review is kind of secondary
Reactor meltdown triggered.
to me just playing something that sparks my interest, and it could be anything. I'm not doing it necessarily for views and clicks. Like, if it's a modern popular game that I seem to have access to, chances are I'm going to run it on the series and just see if you guys like it. This is troubling.
Warning, tethers depleted.
Yeah. Oh! Such a pain in the ass, eh?
Salvage deposit accepted. Credits transferred.
Alright, there's still some money to be made here. This is going to be a pretty piss-weak haul, I think. But yeah, if there's anything in particular you'd think you'd like to see reviewed, let me know. But I mean, that ties into the regular sort of thing,
Credits deposited.
where I cover games on the channel.
Thank you for your purchase. Thank you for your purchase.
In the sort of, you know, just having a look at it slot, doing a first episode, seeing if people are interested, and then going from there sort of thing.
Salvage secured.
Having said all of that, oh geez, that managed to pull all the way down there. There's another thing that I've floated around with, the idea of maybe doing like something in between. So perhaps I would play something for like a couple of hours and then do like a sort of impressions video. So this is something I've played with on the channel before, because I'm actually, and this is another topic that okay, I guess I didn't get the reactor, my bad.
Explosive activity observed.
Fuck, I hate station hoppers. Bugger. I guess it's just because I'm not used to them. Yeah, the idea of, if a game can't really impress you in the first, say, 30 minutes, if it can't go, this is what the gameplay loop's about, this is what you're in for, then, like,
Secured.
I'm actually a pretty harsh critic on that one. I kind of, I think we're done here. I kind of figure, games, that's it, game's not worth it, move on. I think if a game takes like 7 hours for you to get into the rhythm and understand what you're in for, 2.5 million, Jesus Christ, it's like I'm back on mackerels, then I think it's wasted its time. Now, before you make the counter argument against that, about the long burn or whatever, recognize that there are other things at play in the gaming industry at large today, right? Being that, look how many games that I cover daily that are all good. There are so many good games now that I think it is on the game studio, the designers, not even best interests, but I think should be an industry standard that they front load and make sure that you enjoy the game in that first impression, in the first 30 minutes, because the truth of the matter is the consumer will just refund the game and go play something else, because it is it's a buyer's market. There are so many good games that I don't think you can afford to fuck your first half an hour of gameplay up. So that's sort of my general concept, is like, if I'm not 100% sold and sucked in and hooked on your game in the first half an hour, or you could say the first couple of hours, right? But I use the half an hour as an example. Then I go, then it's a bad game. Basically, a bad game by modern standards in the modern setting that it's trying to sell against in the modern market. Doesn't matter how much of a masterpiece you think it might be, they're not playing the rules as the market dictates these days. So something that I've played with previously is doing sort of a review, I suppose, in name, but like it's a more of an early impressions where you play the game for maybe a handful of hours and then you go, okay, cool, I understand what the loop is, I comprehend what the game, you know, the game has now communicated to me enough that I can fully understand what this is, what the loop is, and where it's going, and therefore, like, ultimately, that's the only criteria that is required for a reviewer to pass on to you. So, clocking the game entirely has its merits for a rounded package, but I also think to myself, maybe there's something to be said and a market for, and you guys could help me with this by answering. Maybe there is actually a market for playing a game for a couple of hours, formulating a pseudo, not quite a pitch because I'm not shilling, but me going, all right, like a prospectus, sort of going, hey, this is what the game is, this is what it wants, this is the theme, you know, I can lay it all down for you, I've played it and I can confirm that this is what this game is and what it's telling the player that it means to be. And then that, I think, actually serves as a review, because it's telling you exactly what you need to do. And then if we did that, I could do a couple of those do one of those every couple of days. I could play a game for a couple of hours and then go, well, here's my sort of mini review telling you what this game is about, and you will know immediately whether it's your sort of game or not, and I've put it on your radar. See, there's another concept that I am also considering as well. Like, if I were really going to do it for reviews, I would rather do that. I would rather do like 5 hours of a couple of different indie games than 40 hours of one game. Because I feel like that serves the consumer, the viewer, a little bit better. Anyway, let me know what you reckon, guys. I know I've continued the rant on a little bit longer from the previous one. I appreciate all the feedback. So yeah, ultimately, in conclusion, we're going to be cutting away. I won't be doing a numbered system. At the very least, I'll be playing a game and telling you guys what I think about it. But as I talk about it more, and I know it's on the more tail end of this, but my rants sometimes wander into different territory. I think I would actually prefer just playing bigger chunks of a game and going, hey, this is what this game's about, this counts as a review, and it ultimately, like, yeah, alright, I haven't clocked it, I haven't finished it, but I've played it long enough to know what it is, and whether it's doing it right, and then I can give you that information, because that's what matters. Like, that's what actually matters, if you think about it. It doesn't truly matter. Like, there will be that 1 in 20 chance where it has some awesome ending story twist that I don't know about or something like that. But broadly speaking, it's a game. I can figure out what the gameplay is, and if it's solid, compared to my sort of breadth of knowledge, I guess, and pass that on. Yeah, I'm starting to convince myself. But let me know what you reckon about that sort of concept on the end. I might even talk about it on the next episode a little bit more, since this sort of came to light towards the tail end of this. Anyway, I find the whole review thing interesting. Like I said, I'm not looking at reform. I'm looking at just servicing you, the people, with my knowledge base and my access, you know, because I have that. So I might as well use it, because I do feel that the critical review system has lost its way a little bit. And we won't quite reform it, but we'll see what we can do in our little slice of our little corner of the internet. Alright, team! Thanks again for joining me. We might just leave it there for the time being, and I will catch you guys on the next one.